Welcome to the Business Value Exchange. My name is Helen Beckett. I'm the Community Manager, and I'm very pleased to welcome back Frederic Nze, who is CEO and founder of Oakam. That's a financial services company providing mass customization services to many customers all over the world. Welcome back, Frederic.
Thank you for having me back on your program.
I know Oakam has now been going very successfully for 8 years now, but previous to that you worked with some of the biggest corporates, including American Express and Barclays and others. But you decided that you had some good ideas and you wanted to use technology to turn those into value, convert them into value, and to deliver services to people who've previously been excluded by mainstream banking. Can you first of all explain in a nutshell what made you decide to set up Oakam?
Oh, so that's, I think it's spotting. So I was working on problems that were related or connected to our customer, the customer that we are now serving at Oakam. So in my last job at Barclays, we were looking at universal banking and how to serve people that were excluded. And we tried to do some innovation that failed, but I had enough experience with that to see that there was actually a market, and I wanted to pursue it in a more entrepreneurial way. So very often, large company can't take risks that you can take into a small business. So I decided to come out and pursue that venture.
That's so true. You touched on the fact that it failed, and that it seems to be a very important part of success, a failure, and then to be able to learn from it. What did you learn from those early failures that you implemented in your successful business?
I think it was probably the key skills were in spaces that people didn't anticipate them to be. So traditionally in financial service, people are looking at, the product design from an internal. So what can your technology deliver? What do you need to do from regulatory or from compliance perspective? And what was critical to this market was almost like as an anthropologist to understand how customers wanted to be interacted with. So it was very different skills back then. Things like user experience and computer to human interface were not skills that any financial service company were looking at hiring. So it was very much hiring from other sectors, hiring from the gaming industry, hiring so places where actually people were much keener to understand how customers wanted to be interacted with, where banks design things from inside out and they hope the customers will be happy with them.
So that's really interesting. So you're talking almost from that banking sphere, you have to think like an anthropologist. You have to have a very holistic view, and central to that, you're saying you have to anticipate what your customer wants. What would you recommend? What advice would you give to anyone, whatever their industry, has a bright idea? They might be, working in quite a big enterprise. How might they take that idea and bring it to fruition in this new idea economy?
Yeah. So to give you a little bit of the story, before I left, what I did is when I realized that we had failed a few things, I picked a group of a small group of people that used to work with me and decided to use the infrastructure we had around us. So they were already paid by Barclays, but I've asked them to volunteer and work on Saturday to do market research. So the first thing you do is you probably don't realize when you're working in one of these large companies, you have access to a lot of resources. And if you have something or a vision that can, gather energy, what I found is for 6 months, I had a team of just around 10 people who volunteered to work on doing research to set up Oakam. Not all of them had the courage to resign after that, but a few of them resigned and we set up our first business together. But what was interesting there is, even in a large company, you actually have access to a lot of free resources that can help you launch a business. So that was the first thing. Second one was spend a lot of time outside the office. The learning is observing customers, especially if, in our situation, customers are very different from your own lifestyle. So just spend time to reach out and really understand how these customers purchase, buy, behave, so that you can design something that is very special.
Okay, so from what I take of that, my memorable phrases are a vision that gains energy, and having some patience and the powers of observation. So many thanks for sharing those tips, CEO of Oakam and entrepreneur Frederic Nze.
Thank you very much.